Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
This is Barbara, and today we're joined by our good friend Leah from the YA Book Chat podcast.
Hi, I'm Leah. It's nice to be here.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah.
This month, we read Blade Breaker by Victoria Aveyard, which is the second book in the Realm Breaker series, I think is what she's calling it. All right, we'll talk about the author a little bit first. So Victoria Aveyard is an author and screenwriter born and raised in a small town in western Massachusetts. She has a BFA for writing for film and television from the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts. She's the author of the #1 New York Times bestselling and USA Today bestselling series Red Queen and the #1 New York Times bestseller Realm Breaker. She lives in Los Angeles with her partner and her dog, Indy, and her books have been translated into over 40 languages and counting. Barbara, you want to tell us a little bit about the book itself?
Yeah, so this was originally published on June 28th, 2022, and I know all of us were really excited for the second book. It's considered a YA high fantasy, and it is 578 pages, and it currently, as of this recording, has a 4.1 out of 5 on Goodreads, 4.4 on Amazon, and a 4.5 on Audible. And then, as of the recording of this podcast, this book is literally too new to have been nominated or won any awards, but I won't be surprised if it does get nominated and wins anything too. So we also think it's important for readers to know what, if any, representation is in the books we read. So for this book, there are main POC characters, main LGBTQ plus characters, and no character with a disability.
All right. And Leah, do you want to give us a little mini synopsis for those listeners that have no idea what we're talking about?
Sure. So the fate of the world rests on a blade's edge. Fighting beside her band of unlikely companions, Corayne is learning to embrace her ancient lineage and wield her father's powerful sword. But while she has successfully closed one of the Spindles, her journey is far from over. Queen Erida's army marches across Allward with her consort Taristan right beside them, opening more portals into nightmarish worlds, razing kingdoms to the ground. Corayne has no choice but to assemble an army of her own if she's to save the realm as she knows it. But perilous lands await her and the companions, and they face assassins, otherworldly beasts, and tempestuous seas, all as they rally a divided ward to fight behind them. But Taristan has unleashed an evil far more wicked than his corpse armies. Something deadly waits in the shadows, something that might consume the world before there's any hope for victory.
All right, well, let's talk about Blade Breaker a little bit. We'll start off by what did you think of the book? And remember, for this part, no spoilers.
So I really enjoyed the second book of this trilogy. I was a little worried, as with trilogies, because, sometimes the middle book is what I feel like tends to be the weakest link in like a 3-part series. But I think this one did start to drag a little for me in the middle when I felt like the plot wasn't really moving along quick enough for me. But then it picked up again and I didn't have a problem after that. So I would say I really enjoyed learning more about the main cast, and then the world building was excellent, as her world building tends to be. And same with her characterization and just characters in general. Just that little iffy part there in the middle for me, but otherwise I really enjoyed this one.
I really enjoyed this one too. I know that there's a lot of journey in this book, but I loved that because like we talked about the last time we talked about this book, this series parallels the Lord of the Rings in so many ways, and one of those ways, in my opinion, is that there's a massive journey that has to be taken by the adventurers. And so that was enjoyable for me. It was cool to see them traveling around, meeting different people, and seeking guidance and help from different kingdoms. So I enjoyed the plot. I thought that the character progression was good. There was a lot of action as well that kept you involved that way too. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It left you, just like the first one, left me really, really excited to read the next book, which I know we're gonna have to wait even longer for. But I really enjoyed it.
I would agree with both of you. I really enjoyed it as well. There was one very specific plot point, however, that I did not like. And every time it came up, it bothered me because it happens at multiple points. You see this one thing, and I just didn't enjoy it. She said that she did it for her readers because her readers were asking for it. Personally, this reader was not asking for this particular plot point.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about, and I am in accordance with you. Not a fan of it either.
No. So, but other than that, I really did enjoy it. There were a couple of things with Erida's plotline outside of that I felt the same way, Barbara. That was like a little bit slow, a little in the middle. But other than that, I absolutely loved it. I love that we get the different points of view, and we get to know the characters a lot better in this one.
All right, so we're not going to go into our individual ratings at this point. You got to wait for that till the end. But our group score for this one, for the three of us, was a 9.75 out of 10. So would you recommend this series and by extension, this book? And for me, I think it's an easy one to recommend. I think that the only people I wouldn't be recommending this book to or this series to would be somebody who is just, vehemently anti-fantasy. They're not into that genre at all. Obviously, you're not probably going to be talking to them about this book at all, so that makes sense. But outside of that, I think that people that love fantasy would love this book. I think that people who are on the fence about fantasy, this is actually probably a good series for them to read because it's not as intense and as large in scale as some of the other high fantasy books I've read. So if that's a genre someone's interested in, like maybe dipping their foot into, this would be a good starting point. So for the most part, I would recommend this book to everybody.
I agree. I would absolutely recommend this book to others. In fact, I actually already have. I went to dinner with a friend and she has read the Red Queen series. And I said, "Oh, have you read the new series?" And she was like, "What are you talking about?" So of course I told her about it and highly recommended it. It's just, if you are a high fantasy person, this is definitely the series for you. I mean, it's just got everything in it with all the world building and the characters and all the different dynamics and situations that are taking place. And it just really keeps your interest as well. I never feel bored. I never felt bored reading these books. And it just keeps you wanting more also. And she has a great way of doing that. And also a great way of creating ridiculous cliffhangers at the end of the book so that you definitely want to read the next one. She's like the queen of cliffhangers.
She is awful and great all at the same time.
Yes.
So I would definitely recommend this. I would, say, kind of mention what you guys said. I think if you're a fan of Victoria Aveyard, then it's a definite yes. If you enjoyed her Red Queen series, I think you will definitely enjoy this. I honestly think writing-wise, I think she's gotten even better between the two book series. I also think it's, a good fantasy book for people who maybe aren't normally into the fantasy genre, but also it still appeals to fantasy lovers as well. Obviously, like Michael, like he's really into the high fantasy, like 12 book series that I'm not a huge fan of because that's just too much. And I think this is like that happy medium for people. So, and I'm also really enjoying the series and I cannot wait for the last book. I wish it was 2023 just so I could pick it up and read it because like Leah mentioned, her cliffhangers are for real.
Very much so.
Okay, so for those of you leaving us, don't forget to give us a rating if you like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Badass Lit Pod. So we want to hear from you. So if you have a book you want us to read, please let us know. Now for a short preview of our next episode.
Before we do that preview though, Leah, do you want to do a quick plug for your socials and your podcast?
Sure. So my podcast is YA Book Chat, and every episode I chat about a different book with a guest. Or I also do author interviews, and I've had the chance to interview some New York Times bestselling authors like V.E. Schwab. I've also interviewed Marissa Meyer, and I've got some other really great authors coming up as well. So, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at YA Book Chat, and it is available to listen to on pretty much all of the streaming services.
All right, thank you. I'm definitely jealous of some of the author interviews you get. It's really cool that you've gotten a chance to talk to V.E. Schwab and some of those other big deal authors. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm still in shock sometimes when I look and see what who I've had the chance to interview. So it's awesome. Yeah.
So for us, Badass Literature is going to be reading The Shadow of the Gods next month by John Gwynne. It's the first of, I believe, a planned trilogy of books. And here's a short little preview. After the gods warred and drove themselves to extinction, the cataclysm of their fall shattered the land of Vigrio. Now a new world is rising, where power-hungry jarls feud and monsters stalk the woods and mountains. A world where the bones of the dead gods still hold great power for those brave or desperate enough to seek them out. Now, as whispers of war echo across the mountains and fjords, fate follows in the footsteps of three people. A huntress on a dangerous quest, a noblewoman who has rejected privilege in pursuit of battle fame, and a thrall who seeks vengeance among the famed mercenaries known as the Bloodsworn. All three will shape the fate of the world as it once more falls under the shadow of the gods. Now, remember, the second part of this episode is going to be an in-depth look at Bladebreaker, so if you do want to read that or you haven't read the first book, please stop listening right now and come back and listen to this when you're done.
Hi, this is Leah Stuhler, creator and host of YA Book Chat podcast. If you love reading young adult books and chatting about them with your friends, then head on over to my podcast and take a listen. Each episode, my guests and I chat about a different YA book. We start spoiler-free and then head into our spoiler section where we dive into the mysteries of each book. And we do it with laughs and fun along the way. You can listen to YA Book Chat on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your podcast. And now, back to the show.
Now, for those of you sticking around for the spoilers, here we go. So we're going to start off like we always do and figure out who's getting the Badass Character Award.
So I chose Sarasa. She is absolutely my favorite character. She is so badass, like in so many different ways. I mean, she's a female assassin. She just comes in and like does her thing and can kill all these people and, you know, just fight them like it's absolutely nothing. And she just has a great relationship with Dom, and we get to see more of her character develop in this in a different way than we have previously. And I really, really like that a lot.
So, me too. Sarasa is definitely just my favorite, period. She's also my favorite badass character, so it goes to her. Just, I also have a soft spot for female assassins. I don't know why, because I think that's just such a cool thing. You know, seeing females just kick ass as assassins and just, like, murder everyone with no issues there. But, yes, everything Leah said. I also enjoyed the characterization and like her character arc in this book, because we got to learn more about her background and kind of what makes her tick. And of course, her relationship with Dom was like chef's kiss. So definitely Sarasa.
Well, I'm going to make this easy. My pick is also Sarasa. I think that it's I think, though, to be honest, of these characters and the companions, you could pretty easily make a case for each of them to get this award. But Sarasa was a badass in the first book. She's a badass in this book. It's nice that we got to see, like Barbara said, more of her character development, character growth through learning her background and learning some of her current motivations as well. So yeah, it's an easy choice. So Sarasa gets the Badass Character Award from us for this episode.
Whoop, whoop.
Yay.
All right. So before we get into some of the other questions, I wanted to kind of just do a brief overview of the major characters. So the companions and then the handful of villains as well. And we will start with Corayne. Barbara, do you want to tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah, so Corayne is kind of our reluctant hero trope character is what I would say she is. You know, she is the 17-year-old who kind of got taken into this adventure that she didn't really want to be a part of, but kind of wanted to, but it was a little bit hesitant in the first book. She is the one of coarse blood, so she's the one who can stop Taristan from opening up the Spindles. And it's kind of like she is the, you know, what, like in every adventure, she's the Frodo of Lord of the Rings, essentially. That is who Corayne is.
I love that you just described her as Frodo, because she totally is.
Right? That's kind of like, I pictured each of them as like one of the Lord of the Rings characters, and that's who she is to me, was Frodo.
Well, and then Andry would have to be Samwise Gamgee.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yep.
Exactly.
And we could talk about Andry next. Leah, do you want to talk a little about him?
Sure. I love Andry. He's this like former squire who is now on this adventure with them to help Corayne and the other companions with closing the Spindles. And he is so very dedicated to Corayne, just like Samwise Gamgee is to Frodo. And
Exactly.
it's so sweet. I love their relationship. I kind of wish I'm desperately waiting for book 3 to see more, but
I know.
he's just like this sweet, lovable character who just is there to help and go along and protect Corayne too.
He's our little marshmallow, and nothing better happened to him, or I swear I'm going to be real sad.
Me too.
You know, because of that, I really do think that eventually something will happen to him.
No,
Because
they can't, because they need to get together, and you can't have your hero's love interest die. You just can't.
Well,
you can. That
if
happens a
you're
lot.
Victoria
I
Aveyard.
know. I just don't want it to. You can, because she's evil like that.
It's like, it makes me think of like Stranger Things, where the nice character always gets it. And Andry is like that character, which definitely scares me because I don't want him to die.
I know, he's literally their only like moral compass person.
Yeah, he really is.
Everyone else is okay to get their hands a little dirty, and he's definitely not okay with that. And you can he struggles in this book for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. We talked a little about Sarasa before. We can talk about her a little bit more. So Sarasa is a badass assassin, formerly with the Amara Guild, but she's left them to join the Companions. And in fact, in this book, there's a huge plot point of hers that involves the group being targeted and an attempted assassination by her former friends and family. That was definitely one of the more intense scenes in the book, I'd say. But Sarasa she's a no bullshit character. You know, she's very not only is she a badass, but she doesn't take crap from anybody. She stands up to people that are both like higher status than her, as well as people that are literally like physically much larger than her, and has no problem with that. She's a very interesting character, and in this book we learn a lot more about her backstory, and we see a little bit kind of have some layers of the onion peeled back to see some of the more sensitive and emotional side of Sarasa that we didn't really get in the first book. Now, the unfortunate flip side of that is that we learn those things because she's forced to kill all these people that she used to consider family when they try to attack her new friends. But overall, it was.
That was like one of the most heart-wrenching scenes I've ever read.
Yeah, because you could just feel it that she hated doing it, but had to because, they were targeting Corayne. So, yeah.
And I think for me anyway, it was the first time I've ever encountered a scene like that where we've got like the parallels of like this badass action scene that you really can't fully enjoy as a badass action scene because you know all this, like how horrible this is for one of our main characters. It was interesting. It was a really good scene.
Yeah, it was well written.
Victoria Aveyard is fantastic at writing fight scenes like that and like battle scenes. She's one of the best I've ever read at writing them. So, her descriptions of it really just made it that much more vivid.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's very easy to picture these fight scenes with how she writes it.
Oh, we also get a little bit of an inkling with Sarasa about a potential romance with Dom, and I hope we get maybe more of that in the future.
I squealed at the bathtub scene.
Me too. That was the best scene funny. Ever.
She cracks me up with her bathtub. It's those bathtub scenes with her are just so good.
I was like I love, of course, the whole relationship with Corayne and Andry, but I desperately, so much more desperately, need Sarasa and Dom to be together in the next book.
Same.
I need this. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Same. The sexual tension between both of them started off in the first book, and it's just getting more palpable, and I'm just like, just kiss already, okay? We want it.
And speaking of Dom, Barbara, you want to tell us a little about him and his character?
Yeah, so Dom is our, who would he be? Who's like a tanky person in Lord of the Rings? Just a beefcake of a fighter is Dom. So he's our immortal character, but obviously
that Gimli.
Gimli. Oh,
The
but
dwarf.
Gimli's, is he? Okay, fair enough. I guess it would be. But so yeah, he's the immortal. Doesn't mean he can't die. It's just like their lifespan is different than humans, essentially. And he kind of is the one who started this whole let's get this group together. We need to stop Taristan, because he was, in the first book, the one that was part of the original fight and the only sole survivor. And he definitely has some PTSD from that fight that you could introduced in this book. And gosh, my heart just went out to him when he kept reliving that scene. And of course, his romance with Sarasa just needs to happen so we can all finally, just as readers, be satiated from the sexual tension, like I mentioned.
I was actually going to say, I think if we're doing a Lord of the Rings comparison, Dom would probably be more like Aragorn, because I think Sigil is more of the Gimli. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
All right. So that's Dom. Let's see. Let's talk about Sigil, since I mentioned her a second ago. Leah, do you want to do a little bit about her?
Sure. So Sigil is our bounty hunter. She's also a really fun character. She has like no problem with killing anybody. So she's this very like, I'm gonna take you down. Like the very first chapter of this book, Sigil is like laughing as she's killing the last of these like horrible soldiers that are around from when they closed the spindle at the end of the previous book. And what's really funny is that because she's a bounty hunter, Charlie, who's one of their companions, she was hunting Charlie. And so it's like she caught him, but she can't really take him in because they have to work together right now. So there's like this constant running joke. And Charlie's like, you're not really going to take me in after all this is over, right? And she never really tells him if she is or not. So she's just
I think she enjoys the that he's like constantly wondering, I think that might be a point of enjoyment for her.
Yeah, and she's kind of snarky, and she knows how to take care of herself. So she's a fun character.
She is. I'm a little sad that we didn't get too much from like her, Charlie, and Valtic this time around.
Yeah, I was hoping to get more, at least from her.
Same. Like, especially because they're not point of view characters, so we really just rely on getting to know them through the eyes of the other, 3 or 4, technically,
right.
The 4. So,
like you said, we got a little bit, but not as much as I feel like we got in the last book. But maybe that means we're
I mean, we didn't. So out of like the 4 main ones, Sigil, Charlie, and Valtic, I feel like, because we also meet them a little bit later in the first book as well. So that's why I was hoping to get a little bit more of them in this book. And we still did, but it's still not as much as the other guys, I think.
I have a feeling based on the ending of this book that we're going to get more of them in book 3.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I think you might be right. Speaking of Charlie, we can talk about Charlie next. So Charlie is a former priest who is introduced to the companions by way of like Leah mentioned, that Sigil was pursuing him for a bounty, because now Charlie is acting as a forger, not just a regular forger, but an incredibly skilled forger, we learn. Because in this book, he makes a lot of very intricate documents that allow them free access around the entire realm, seemingly. But we don't get a whole lot of Charlie in this book. We learned a little bit about some of Charlie's past in the way of a former relationship of his that we learned about. But I think that was about it, wasn't it? Like we didn't get a whole lot more of Charlie that I'm missing.
No, I mean, like he kind of takes Corayne under his wing as far as like she tries seeing how he, does forgery and tries to like copy him, or like both of them are the ones that send out the letters. But besides that, I don't feel like we got too much of him, honestly.
No, definitely not. Especially too because like in the battle scenes, they make him stay up on the hill, so he's not even involved in the battles. He has to like hide when they're fighting.
Yep.
Yeah, he's definitely not a fighter. Like he does not in any of the fight scenes. He just kind of hangs out with Corayne.
You just go sit over there, okay? We'll be right back.
Right. He's like, I think I'm better off sitting here.
Yep. Works out though, because they may help him to feel more useful, like you said, because he's looking after Corayne. At least that was his responsibility in the large battles in this book. Let's see, who else? Who are we missing? Oh, Valtic. Barbara, you want to tell us a little about our resident witch?
So yeah, like Michael says, she's the witch. She would be the what's his name? The Gandalf. She's the
Gandalf.
Gandalf of the group. Yes. So just like the last two, Sigil and Charlie, we really don't get a lot of her in this book. She kind of disappears for large chunks of the book, and you find out like what the heck she's doing.
Which
She's
is a
over
very
here like
Gandalf thing to do, by the way, to just
right,
disappear
Yes.
for large chunks
just
of the story.
disappear. Yeah. So like she's 100% just like him. You know, she's got these powers that we still don't really know kind of what she can and cannot do. You know, she's still speaking in her rhyming like poem type verse speak that no one understands. Kind of it makes me kind of cackle whenever they're like, what are you talking about? And she just kind of like laughs and like walks away, and no one understands what the hell she's talking about. And then like later in the book you figure it out what the hell she's talking about. So that's kind of her. And obviously she's always very pivotal at the very end. You know, the last book, she's the one who defeated the Kraken and pushed it back to its realm. And this one, she's the one who brought in Dom's cousin, Rita, and then like everyone else that she was with as well to help them fight at that end. And yeah, that's just, but like I said, we don't really get too much of her. We do learn a little bit about the other people that are kind of like her because they come with Rita, I believe.
Yes. I was really hoping for more of her because I love her. And so when she disappeared for so long, I was like, where is she? What is happening right now? I want more of that crazy witch.
Yeah, she's such an interesting character.
She really is.
All right, so that's all the companions. So I guess now we got to move over to the villains. Leah, do you want to tell us a little bit about Erida?
Sure. So Erida is our power-hungry queen, trying to work her way through the realm to take over as many cities as she can, because she just wants to take over Allward and rule completely with her consort, Taristan. And she really like goes downhill in this book. And when I say go downhill, I mean like in book 1, she was kind of nice at first, and then she marries Taristan. But like in this book, she just goes on this like evil spiral, and it's like all consuming, and she's just consumed by getting Corayne and the companions, and also by taking over all of Allward. Like that's her main focus, and she's just like power hungry and very greedy. And the more that the book went on, the more that she became like that too.
Yeah. I agree with that.
She definitely leaned into her evil in this book for sure.
Yeah, because I feel like in the first book it was more of that like morally gray. You weren't really sure. In the second book, like I feel like there is no is she not evil? I think she definitely stepped on that realm of no turning back.
Agreed.
All right, so we talked about Erida. Let's talk about her husband. So Taristan is our other big bad in this book, or at least one of them. He is not only Erida's husband, he's also Corayne's uncle, and also the murderer of Corayne's father in the first book. But Taristan is
twin brother.
Twin brother, yes. Yeah. Taristan's a Spindleborn as well, so he has similar powers to what Corayne does, but he's quite a bit stronger. In this book, we get quite a bit of Taristan, actually, and I think that his character is the main reason that we see Erida kind of like leaning into and becoming a lot more evil, as she's kind of taking influence from Taristan as he goes through and happily conquers kingdoms. And like there was one scene that I'll never forget with Taristan in this book when it was the very first kingdom they were trying to conquer, when Taristan decides to just go completely out of like the general rules of warfare for this realm and just slaughters that prince right in front of everybody. That was pretty intense. Not really out of character for Taristan, because he's not exactly a play by the rules kind of guy, but he had definitely been more so that way since marrying Erida, because I think he realized that he had to walk that tightrope of himself, which is chaos, and the life of a royal, which is a little bit more put together. But that was just one of many examples where you see him kind of slip and fall off the tightrope into chaos Taristan land for a bit. But
I like that, chaos Taristan land.
Yeah, he's interesting. That's for sure.
That's a way to put it.
Yeah.
Just not a fan of him.
No.
And I know we're not supposed to be, but
Yeah, like I just feel like it's one of those, it's like he's a little 12-year-old kid who didn't get his toy and now he's bitching about it, you know? Like, I understand, like, that's every bad guy. Like, they feel like the world owes them something. He's just, yeah, like, slimy. Like, he's just slimy and creepy and, ugh, yeah. But, like, I love to hate him, for sure.
So he would be, okay, even though Ronan is the wizard, I still feel like Taristan is more like Sauron. Which one is it? Or Sauron?
Yeah.
I always get them mixed up. Sauron.
I do too, Michael.
So Taristan would probably, so Saruman would probably be more Ronan because of like Ronan's like the wizard behind the scenes, but Sauron, which is the person who's the eyeball and the yes. I mean, obviously Taristan isn't just like an eye in this, but if we look at Sauron before when he was a warrior, I think Taristan and Sauron have a lot of parallels.
Well, but wouldn't Sauron be the who waits?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You're right.
So Taristan, I feel like, is a puppet. Like, that's what makes it sad about it. Like, I really, like, he's just a puppet in this whole thing for He Who Waits. Like, he is using him to get what he wants, and I'm pretty sure as soon as he gets it, he's going to throw Taristan aside like a little puppet that he is. And that kind of makes me feel bad for his character, but not really, because he's an awful person. So it's kind of hard to feel bad for him, even though I feel like you know what his fate is going to be.
And in that way, I guess he is more like Saruman than the White Wizard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I guess if you mash Taristan and Ronan together, then that makes Saruman. They've kind of split the two of them. But speaking of Ronan, Barbara, you want to tell us what about our final villain?
Ronan is such a creep, man. Like, we didn't get too much of him, but like every time that we do, I love Erida's point of view of him, because she's just like like a sleazeball. Like, she's like, there he is in his creepy little red tunic, and like he reminds me of like a rat in like a priest's get up type thing. Like, he's just so creepy. And like the way she describes him, like I kind of laugh at like the way that she mentions him, because it's like, you know, she's just like, it's her inner thoughts about him, and she's like, I just wish he wasn't here. Like, she kind of sometimes, because I think she's 19, right, and she does not act like a 19-year-old because she's queen, so she has to act like a queen and all this stuff. But like, you definitely see that 19-year-old come out whenever Ronan's around, because she's like, dang, he's ruining like my sexy time with Taristan. Why won't he just leave? Like, it cracks me up. But he's such a sleazeball.
He is.
And have we figured, like, I know he said that he's spindle touched, but I'm not quite sure if there's more of him. Do you guys know?
I'm not sure. Like, I feel like I'm still trying to figure him out. Besides the creep factor.
I think that we'll probably, or at least I'm hoping we get a lot more of him in the third book, as far as learning some more about why he's able to do what he is and some of the background there. Because he's creepy as hell, but he's a very interesting character.
For sure.
So hopefully we'll learn some more about his magic and stuff. And once what waits inevitably arrives in book 3.
He's no longer waiting.
Right.
Bad joke. Anyone else have anything on the creepiness of good old Ronan?
He goes into her room without even knocking, like multiple times. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's just once. He just feels like he can let himself into her room and do whatever he wants. And I'm like, yeah, really is.
He's just entitled.
He makes it very clear that he sees Erida as below him in their pyramid of empire of evil, I guess. But yeah, no, he definitely he sees Erida as just another tool on his belt that they needed to accomplish their mission. He definitely doesn't have a lot of respect.
No. Although I think he did get a little bit more when she started going cray-cray and like murdering people. I think he definitely, because I think at one point she even says like she sees, I don't know, like approval in his eyes. And I was like, girl, that's not a good thing. You know, like you don't want to see that.
All right, so let's jump into some of our questions. So the first one we have is, Victoria Aveyard has frequently mentioned that Lord of the Rings inspired this series of books. In Bladebreaker, it is very much about the journey as the companions travel around the realm, seeking help for their cause and the war to inevitably come. Do you think that Aveyard did a good job with this? And did the journey keep you captivated as the story progressed?
So this part was interesting, but I did feel like the story dragged a little because of the whole journey for them, but not really just the companion's journey, but for me it was Erida's political scheming as well. Like, I am not a huge political lover of things, and luckily I feel like Victoria Aveyard dumbed this down for people like me, because you get a little bit of it, but like other books where I've read for the podcast, or like Michael made me read, it like really has the political part, and I really hate that. So I didn't hate this one, but I wasn't a huge fan of the political scheming. But whatever. So the stuff happened, but I felt like the plot took a bit of a backseat for the character development. But luckily, I'm a huge fan for character development if it's done well, and I think Victoria Aveyard does an amazing job with that. But I preferred the companion's character development more so than Erida's and Taristan, just because of the political aspect and then their creepy love story. I get that people wanted that, but it was fine. I wasn't a huge fan, but it is what it is.
So I loved this aspect of the book, which is probably not surprising for anybody to hear, but I loved it because it allowed her to really build out the world. And I'm a sucker for world building in fantasy books. And we got to see all these new places they went. And I love being able to, like, I had downloaded a copy of the map of the realm on my computer, and I would look and compare. So I was kind of following them as they went, which was really cool to me anyway. As far as the political stuff, I'm completely the opposite of Barbara. I love political scheming and kind of understanding the machinations of politics in other worlds or in our own world, if that's what the book's about. But so I thought that was really interesting to kind of see a behind the curtain look at Erida's political scheming and the way that she goes about her conquering and making sure that she's safe, and also going a little crazy because she starts to think that everybody's out to get her at that point, which is always something that happens with emperor-like people. But anyway, I think she did a great job with this as far as the journey. I really enjoyed getting to see more of the world as we went, and I think that at least my prediction is that all of that will be melded together in book 3 as we see, hopefully, armies and representatives from these different places all come together for the epic fight that is to come.
I agree with both of you on different aspects, though. I was actually the same way as Michael. Like, I have the map and the front cover of the book, and so I kept on going back to it as I was reading, as the companions were kind of journeying around Allward, and following them along and seeing where different places were, and like where Rita was as well, and kind of checking that out. Which, her part, I liked that we got that, and it was like such a different climate from where everybody else is. So that was really cool too, because it's just a completely different area and different part of this world than any of the other characters are in. So we get to see that a bit. It also kind of reminded me of Vikings, like the TV show Vikings. This is what I kept picturing with Rita. So but I did like that a lot. I liked that we got to see different parts of the world. What I am not also a huge fan of the like politicalness of it. The part that was kind of really slow for me was when Erida and Taristan go down and they capture the first city, and she's kind of just like in limbo. Like, she's there, and it's this like in between of, well, we have to wait now for this to happen before we can make our next move. And it was just a lot of like just waiting. And so that wasn't my favorite part. Yeah, I'm the same. Like, the political stuff is not always my thing either. It just depends on how it's done. But I didn't hate it, like you said, Barbara. It just wasn't my favorite either, and kind of was a little bit slow for me in spots. But otherwise, I enjoyed it.
So moving on from there, how do you think the companions grew in this sequel? And do you think some grew more than others? I think that, I think they all had some growth, but there was definitely some that grew a lot more than others. Like Barbara mentioned quite a while ago, I think actually, that we got a lot more information and growth from the main characters. Like we mentioned, that we didn't get a lot of growth for Baltic or Charlie or
Sigil,
thank you. But we got a lot more from the others, and I think the others were the point of view characters too, right? The ones that got okay.
Yep.
So we got a lot more growth from them, but I think that it was cool to be able to see that character growth and kind of see that development happen, because this book was kind of the middle chunk of the journey and had a lot of that in it. We got to get a lot more of that character development happening outside of just action and things like that, fights, things along those lines happening. We got a lot of more, I'm going to say, like social time with our characters going through this experience, and so that allowed them to grow a lot more, and especially the POV characters, because we could obviously get inside their head as well. But like we mentioned earlier, I'm hoping that it'd be kind of cool if they were all point of view characters in the next book, but maybe that's too much. I don't know. But it'd be cool to at least get some more info on them and some more background, because I do feel like the three people I mentioned kind of got the short end of a stick for character development.
I agree. Those three definitely did get the short end. But again, based on how the book ended, because they kind of all went separate ways, I feel like we'll see more of them hopefully in the next book. I mean, because she kind of did a little bit of that in one of the Red Queen books too, because they all separated at one point, and so we got different POVs from characters who we hadn't previously. So hopefully we'll get more of those three. But I agree. I liked getting to see a different side of Corayne in this when her mother showed up. It was interesting to see her relationship with her mother, because she talked about it in the first book, but in this book, like, her mom is with them for a while. And so we get a lot more of their relationship, and just seeing how much Corayne really wants to have a good relationship with her mother, but her mother is always leaving, and just kind of seeing the strain that's there and what's happened. So I liked that we got to see that. Also with Sarasa, getting to see her and finally having that mystery behind her past revealed as to what happened. And she was just so vulnerable, and I really liked seeing that, because she is this like super tough, badass assassin, but at the same time, it was great to be able to see a different side of her too.
So yeah, I agree with both of you guys. We definitely got the 4 point of view characters the most of, and honestly even Erida, and through extension a little bit of Taristan as far as character growth for him. He just gets creepier and creepier, but and same with Erida, like she gets more evil, I think. And like Leah said, you get to see Sarasa really struggle with her emotions more. We learned about her backstory, and it was actually really nice to kind of see that softer side of her, just to see that she actually does care about things. She just kind of, in her profession, had to like stuff it down in a way to be good at what she does. Corayne, same thing. I feel like she's finally coming a little bit into her own more. She's learning how to find her spot in this group of people who are so good at what they do. And I feel like she always felt a bit like of an oddball in the first book, and now I feel like she's understanding her role and how important it is. And then we also saw poor little Andrew be so less sure of his actions, especially because like he is not okay with the killing of people, and he's really struggling with that. And you really saw that in this book, and thinking like, is he doing the right thing? Because I feel like he's still in that middle ground where he doesn't know if what they're doing action wise is okay in the long term. And then poor Dom kind of faltering, because like I feel like he was go in the first book, and now you see like what happened to him kind of affect him in the way of his fighting and faltering on a lot of things. So yeah, they really grew those 5, I would say, and then the other ones kind of took a little bit of a backseat. But like Leah mentioned, I'm hoping that we'll get maybe their point of views, since they're really split up in the ending of this book.
All right, let's talk about the bad guys a little bit. As Erida dives deeper and deeper into the dark, do you think she'll ultimately turn pure evil like Taristan, or will she be redeemed somehow by the end of this story?
So I feel like Erida is ultimately going to be evil. She definitely was going down that path in this book. I don't think that there's any redemption for her at this point, because I feel like she's hit the point of no return, especially because her and Taristan are now having a full-on marital sexual relationship, which is the point that I mentioned earlier before we were talking about spoilers, that I do not like. I feel like it made more sense, at least in my brain, in book one, when, they got married and it was a marriage of convenience for both of them. And they both have things that they wanted and they need the other one to get it. But he is like, he's evil and he's just kind of repulsive to me in so many ways. And to think about him with this 19-year-old girl who, yes, she's power hungry. She wants to be queen of all of Allward. But because he's also being influenced by Ronan and what waits, he's kind of got this other like scary part to him. And it just, to me, is like, I didn't want to see them together romantically. Like, I would have preferred that they not consummate their marriage. So I just did not like that.
Did you get like a bit of like grooming from him a little or not?
Yeah, it does seem like he's definitely grooming her and he's had a lot more influence on her.
Mm-hmm. Because I don't mean sexually grooming in this way. I meant like emotionally grooming. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards, just because like before, like she was power hungry, but not necessarily like, okay, like she was still very squeamish about killing people. And then in this book, I felt like he kept saying like, oh, it's okay. And then she does it. And then like she kind of freaks out. And then he's like, oh, it's fine. That's kind of the grooming that I'm talking about here.
Yes, no, and I completely agree with you. He does push her more and more to do those different things and to take control and to, realize, well, not realize, but to think that, killing and what they're doing is okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Honestly, this is literally what I was thinking after finishing this book. Like, is she redeemable? Because at first I thought she would be redeemed somehow in the first book. But after this book and how it ended, and especially towards those last kind of scenes with her, I just don't see that happening with her. So I really, like I mentioned before, I really enjoyed her morally gray characterization in the first book. But like this time around, it got really difficult, like increasingly difficult to root for her just because of her actions. And then, I feel like in the first book, she definitely was tiptoeing that line. And then in this book, she just like ran right past that redeemable quality, at least for me. And I also agree. I wasn't sure about the whole romantic relationship. And, I called her 19 and I want to say, is she 19 when she first got her queendom and now she's 22? I'm not really sure. It's something around her age, but regardless, like he's much older than her. I find it kind of creepy, their relationship romantically, but I mean, okay, I get it. Maybe she sees the first guy in him that doesn't want to take her power away. Like he sees her as an equal, but I'm not, I feel like maybe he does see her as an equal, but maybe not really. I don't know if he's playing her or not. I haven't quite figured that one out yet, but I guess we'll see. But definitely, I don't think she's going to be redeemed. I don't see that especially after she killed that poor girl who didn't do anything wrong.
So I think that by the end of this, she's going to dive into the deep end of evil, so to speak, and if she's not already partially there already. As far as her being redeemed, though, I think what we'll probably get, this is just my prediction, is what I'm going to call a partial redemption. So she's going to be truly evil. And we're probably not going to like her very much at all by the end of the series. But maybe like at the very end, she'll be the one who like backstabs Taristan or something, and that helps our main characters. Maybe she'll like a moment of clarity, but that moment of clarity won't be enough in my mind to redeem her character. But that's why I called it a partial redemption, because maybe she'll be one of those evil characters that has a brief change of heart near the end. We'll see.
Like Billy in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's a good comparison.
I know.
But as far as the grooming and stuff, I guess I get the evil part of it, yes, but the consummating of their relationship, I wasn't it Erida who was pushing for like the consummation?
Oh, no, 100%. And that's what I'm saying. I don't mean grooming. He wasn't grooming her sexually. He was grooming her to be more evil. Okay. But yeah, she's definitely the one that was kind of throwing herself at him. 100%.
Well, and she did that at first because she was like, in order for the people to see Taristan as her legitimate husband, they have to have an heir.
Right.
So But then as you go along in the book, she does develop feelings for him.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Yep. All right. So moving on from there, let's get into some of the sad areas of the book. So when Rita died, I was gutted personally. What do you think her death means for the future of the companions, and specifically, what about Dom? How do you think he'll cope with it?
Ugh, yes, me too. I was definitely like sad because we get a little bit of her point of view in the first book and a little bit in this book, and then it's just at the very beginning, and then you don't know what the heck happened until the very end, and she pops up again. I'm like, yay! And then it's like, no! At the very end, she gets stabbed by Taristan. So I really enjoyed her character and felt all the feels when she died. That was definitely me. So I'm hoping she's not dead, but I don't see how that's possible, especially because I think, especially with how she ended the story, it kind of feels like her body's going to come back as one of those little like creepy, mindless zombie-esque type things that they've been fighting throughout the book. And I don't think his Dom is going to cope very well, especially because I feel like he blames himself for her risking her life and leaving the sanctity of like where they're from technically, since she is like the heir of the queen of their lands. And but she believed in him and believed in saving this realm, that she went out of that to try to like congregate and get all these people to fight with them. And he kind of was the one who helped her see that. And so he definitely is going to feel like this poor Dom. I feel so bad for him. I feel like he's going to get like more PTSD now because I think he's going to see her death is, in his hands.
Yeah, I think that I feel awful for Dom. That was a really rough scene when she got killed. But I think we'll see Dom cope with her death in an unhealthy way in the third book. I think that and what I mean by that is that he'll, instead of taking the time to grieve, I think he will channel his rage and sadness into his vengeance at this point against Taristan and that group. I think that's. I don't think we'll really see Dom take a moment to grieve her loss until after the mission is complete, so to speak. I think in the interim, he will kind of swallow down his feelings and force himself to do that rather, and channel it into his anger that he has towards them to be a better fighter.
Well, I agree with both of you. I was also sad when Rita died. I really, really wanted more of her character. So it was it was hard when she was gone and killed off. I think that Dom probably, I agree that he's going to take it really hard, especially because of the way that he still beats himself up about the Corayne's father dying and how he wasn't able to protect him and keep him alive. So I think that this even more, with Rita being related to him, especially, and because, he was like, come and help us, I think he's going to have a really hard time with it too.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one that really liked her character, even though we got just brief parts of her character. I really enjoyed her and wanted more. And I was thinking we would get more in the third book, and then it just ends like that. I'm like, what the heck just happened?
I know. I kept on as I was reading, I kept on looking and flipping forward through the chapters to see the names of the POVs. I was like, where is she? Why isn't there another chapter about her until the end? Yes. It was really frustrating.
Yes. Especially because it kind of just they're fighting this dragon, and it's this weird, or this knight in all black armor is murdering them, but not. He doesn't seem to be in anyone's side. He's just kind of there. He's neither good nor bad, but he'll murder you if you're in his way. And then it just she pulls her friend that she just befriended that day into this water, and then you don't hear from her again. And I'm like, what the heck happened to her? Are we going to get more? That was really intense. What happened? And then we see her okay, and battling these hellhounds essentially. I'm like, yay, okay, great. And then she just abruptly dies, and I'm like, the heck just happened? No.
Yeah, it was really, really crazy, but she shall be missed.
Yes.
So I guess continuing to talk about that scene, there's a finale or point during the finale of the novel where it seems all hope was lost. How did you feel during that scene? Were you scared that one of the companions was about to die? Just general feelings. And for me, I mean, it was all of that happening. I think I kind of expected shit to hit the fan, so to speak, but not for it to be as bad as it ended up being. And it kind of, a couple times through that scene, like you'd get glimpses of where like, oh, maybe things are turning around. And then that's obviously absolutely not really how it turned out. At the point when Taristan had effectively captured everyone, and we see him break Corayne's sword, that's when I was like, oh man, Victoria's she's going to kill somebody. One of these characters is going to die. I mean, obviously Erida died, and that was a big deal, but not one of the major companions. And I really did think that one of them was going to get killed. Not in the fight. I thought that one of them was going to die, like getting executed effectively by Taristan. And luckily it didn't happen. But I definitely had a really bad feeling throughout that whole scene. Like my anxiety was like a 10, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Who's going down? So yeah, that's how I felt on it.
I felt the same way. Like that whole time I kept thinking somebody was going to die, and I was just trying to figure out who it was going to be. I actually thought that it was going to be Sigil, because I feel like she disappears for a while in there. And Sarosa is like, where is she? What's going on with Sigil and Charlie? And so I thought maybe Sigil was going to get it. And then, yeah, when the sword gets broken, I thought, okay, well, that's it. We're done now. But the thing is like, so that there's that part of your brain as a reader, and you're trapped in the moment, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. All these bad things are happening. But then there's this other part that says, oh, but there's a book 3 coming. So there's still hope, So I kept on, I kept on hoping that Corayne would somehow get Taristan's sword. I just couldn't see how it was going to happen, but then it did. So that's awesome. But I was like, there's no way they're all getting out of this alive. I definitely felt that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to echo exactly. So I was wondering how they were all going to get out of this pickle they found themselves in, especially because, at this point they're all captured pretty much. And Sigil's her leg wasn't working because like the horse fell on her. I don't even know where the heck Charlie was at this point. I don't even remember if he stayed behind, because we kind of lose sight of him too. And then I was also a little worried that, she was going to, Aveyard one of their asses, aka like murder somebody, because she's very prone to just doing that, quote unquote Red Queen looking at you, second book, like the heck. So, but I also was too scared because I think, she's going to leave that, like Leah said, for the last book. So I'm not sure all the companions are going to make it, but I was hoping that in this book they would. I was also a little confused because the timeline of the book was a bit hard to follow, at least for me, since we got like Erida's point of view that didn't flow with the companion's timeline. So I was trying to, like, when that scene happened, like I was trying to wrap my brain around the fact that Taristan was somehow there, because, and if I'm not mistaken, literally the last chapter was Erida's point of view, and that's when they had, their sexy time, and then he gets the call of like, hey, there was sighting of the companions or whatever, and he leaves. And in between that and then the other point of view, for the companions, it's literally a back-to-back scene. Like we had, hey, there's these poor little kids, there's fire, we think the spindle got opened by like the essentially like hellfire type thing, and then the next chapter is them like rushing in there. So then like when he was there and we get that scene, I'm like, okay, obviously this isn't happening concurrently. So my brain kind of was trying to register that, but this is definitely, all lost hope. I felt a little bit scared, but I was hoping something was going to happen. I did not picture the freaking dragon coming in and saving their asses, because once again, the dragon will dragon. Like, he's not on either side. And I thought it was kind of funny that Vaultek in all her badassery comes in and controls the dragon, and then the dead things that stupid Ronan was trying to do, and she like totally does it. And I was like, yes, Vaultek, yes. So I thought that was really very fun.
If anybody was going to be able to control a dragon, it would be Vaultek. Like,
right?
She's the only one who could do that.
I love that she did that, especially against Ronan. I was like, because he's so cocky, Yes. And then she just pretty much stops him from doing that. Love it.
She is so fun. I just love her character. I do want to say, Barbara, I am glad that I was not the only one who was confused about the timeline, because I was definitely feeling the exact
Yes.
same. Like, I was like, wait, how is he there already? That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
Right? Because it's confusing. It's very confusing. And I forget, like, obviously this isn't happening concurrently, but when you're reading the book as a reader, it's hard to keep the timelines in perspective,
Right.
especially because I was like gobbling this up. So I wasn't taking pause to be like, okay, let me make a timeline in my brain. I was just like, yes, more.
Yeah. Same. I will say, though, at least for me, it was not as confusing as when I first started watching The Witcher, and it took me like 3 episodes to realize that they were in totally separate timelines, because I was like, I don't understand what's happening right now.
What are your thoughts on the ending of this book?
Okay, so again, I say that Victoria Aveyard is the master of the cliffhanger ending. She really knows how to do that to you. I like, it's hard because they're all separated now. We have 3 of them who have been captured. We've got one, I don't even know where she went. And then Corayne now is going to be by herself, which to me is the scariest part of the whole thing, because she's on her own and has no help. And now she's got Taristan's sword, which means he's going to want to come after her even more with a vengeance than he already was, because her sword is broken. So now there's only one spindle blade that's left. And then they're all separated and they're going their separate ways. So I'm like, there's a lot to wonder about and try and figure out what's going to happen. Like, I also wondered, how long it's going to take for them to meet up again in the next book. Like, how long are they going to be separated for? Is Corayne going to come back in and like come to all of to rescue the ones who have been captured? Like, how is this going to work? So it just leaves a lot of questions yet to be answered. But again, like I said earlier, I'm also excited for it, because I think that means that we will get different points of view than maybe even more so in the next book.
Yes, I love to hate the ending that we got, especially because like in the first book, it was kind of a cliffhanger, but a lot of it was resolved as far as that section of the first part of the story. This one is just straight up cliffhanger, man. You have no idea what's going on. You have no idea what's going to happen, because like Leah mentioned, they're all split up. And poor Corayne is over here by herself, and she's the one who doesn't know too much of what's going on as far as like how to fight and protect herself. Also, love to hate it because, like I mentioned before, poor Erida dies, and now, I have to wait another year to figure out what the heck happens and if she is going to come back corpse-like or not. It's just a great ending and a hell of a cliffhanger. And, Leah mentioned, like, how are the companions going to converge again? Is it going to take a while? Is it going to be like a third of the book, or maybe even at the very end is when they're going to come back together?
Yeah.
Since they're all split up. And of course, Victoria Pavloved my ass and left me wanting more, as she should. So.
As she always does in her books.
Okay, so my thoughts on the ending, very similar to what you both said. I like Barbara said, I love to hate the ending. I hated that Erida died. I really wanted to see more of her character. I love how good Victoria Aveyard is at cliffhangers, like you guys talked about too. I'm also at the same time pissed that we have to wait a whole year at the least before we get to read the next novel, but I'm very excited to do so. So in that way, I did like the ending. I think that it's an effective way to end a book, to leave us on that kind of a knife's edge cliffhanger, especially like Leah mentioned, with Corayne being off by herself now, and that's the first time that's really happened. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. It's going to be interesting, but yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. So our last question. Let's talk book 3 predictions. What do you think is going to end up happening?
Oh, so much. So I do think one of the companions will end up dying, and that just makes me really sad to think about, because I love all of them in their own ways. And I'm hoping Sarasa... Oh, actually, I really don't know who's going to die, and I don't want to make any predictions because I don't want to be right. And if I'm wrong and it's someone else, like, it's just hard because I like all of them. Like, there's not one that I want to die, so I just don't want to even think about that. But unfortunately, I do think that might happen. Also, I'm hoping that Sarasa and Dom and Andrea and Corayne are finally going to get together, because like the pining is killing me, especially with Sarasa and Dom, because I really, really like them. And of course, Andrea and Corayne, like, I still enjoy them, and I think they will get together, because I really hope she doesn't kill off their love interests. But it makes me more worried about Sarasa and Dom, but we'll see. Let's see here. I do think that Corayne might hopefully talk some sense into Taristan at the last minute, and then he's still going to die, but like maybe protecting her from what waits, kind of like how Michael said with Erida, but I don't think it's Erida that's going to be doing that. I do think maybe it'll be Taristan, especially because they are related, and maybe, I don't know, I'm hoping like he'll get that, like, hey, we're related and you're technically, you know, like my niece, and I don't want to murder you, but I guess we'll see. And especially because like in that last chapter between Corayne, we kind of see what waits asking her to like be his little champion and not Taristan, and that just kind of made it seem like what waits is using Taristan. It was like his second choice, and Corayne really is his first choice. Yeah, and then of course we're gonna get epic fight scenes, because Victoria Aveyard does such a great job with that, and I'm expecting even more in the last book. But I do hopefully want some more of those like humorous scenes to break up all the serious stuff, because I feel like sometimes it's a little heavy for me. Maybe more funny Sarasa and Dom flirting. That would be great for me, even though they're nowhere near each other right now, so maybe it's not going to happen. And I do think that Erida is going to die, because I don't see how else to like keep her around, because even if like, you know, obviously they're going to defeat what waits, and like what do you do with her if she's not dead, because I feel like she's done too much at this point to kind of be redeemed.
So I think that Erida is probably going to be, if she doesn't die, she'll be imprisoned. But to quickly comment on one of the things you mentioned, Barbara, I think if Taristan does what you mentioned and he hesitates and doesn't kill Corayne, I think that what waits will put him down like a dog. I think that so if that happens, Taristan's going to die by his own master. I think will happen, but we shall see. I think one way or another, Taristan's dead. But I also think that one of the companions will die. I could see Dom dying in a sacrificial way. I think the most gut-checking death would be if Andrea died, but so that could happen. We'll see. I definitely think one of them is going to die, though. But I think that.
Don't put that out into the existence in the realm, Michael. Don't you dare. That's why I didn't say anything. Don't you dare do that to Andrea and Dom. You take that back.
No.
I do think, though, before any of that happens, that we'll see Corayne and Andrea get together. I think we'll also see Sarasa and Dom get together. But I think one of those relationships is not going to work out because somebody dies. Saying it again. But yeah, I think that we're leading up to this massive battle, and I'm really looking forward to that because of how well Victoria Aveyard writes battle scenes specifically. So I'm really looking forward to that, and it'll also be interesting to see who all shows up to help at the end of the day, because some people were for it, others were against it. So as shit continues to hit the fan, we're wondering if some of those no's will turn into yeses, but we will see.
I agree with both of you on those points. I am also curious, based on what both of you have said, if either of you have gotten like a Star Wars vibe from this, like when Darth Vader sacrifices himself for Luke and the Emperor, you know, he ends up throwing the Emperor down the shaft and said, like, this is the vibe I'm getting right now from the two of you and what you're saying, with Taristan maybe trying to save Corayne.
I never thought of that. Like, now that you mention it, 100%.
Oh,
Did you get the Star Wars vibe, Michael?
I got a little bit of a Star Wars vibe, yeah.
Like
from the bad guys, yeah.
Well, so I've never finished that. I didn't realize what's his face helped. What's his name? Darth Vader. I didn't realize.
I'm sorry,
you're fine.
Barbara.
You didn't spoil anything for me. Like, this is like 20-year-old movie. Like, at this point, it's fine. I've never watched any of the Star Wars until Michael, and so he's made me watch the last two, and I haven't finished
She's seen
the
everything
third
except
one.
for Return of the Jedi, but
yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I can totally see that, Leah. Like Taristan's Darth Vader, what waits is the Emperor, and the Emperor in that case I mean, he killed Vader, so that could happen here too.
See, I didn't know that.
That's the vibe that I was getting. But
Mm-hmm.
I agree with both of you. Definitely excited about the fight scenes that we're going to get in the next book because she is so good at writing those. But I am also petrified of who is going to die. I don't think it's if, it's who. And I could totally see either Sarasa or Dom being somebody to sacrifice themselves for Corayne or for the cause. So I'm concerned that they're going to get together, but then like Michael said, one of them is going to die.
I hate both of you.
I know. It's so horrible. The problem is that when you read enough of these fantasy books like this, you kind of see a pattern.
You do. I know. That's why I didn't want to like say it into existence because you're right. And I hate that you guys are right.
I mean, the other option is that one of the like, I say smaller, but like less developed of the companions like Sigil or Charlie dies, which would still be really sad, but it's not like as gut-wrenching as if Dom or Sarasa were to die. And so I could see her going either way with that. But I definitely think that no matter what happens with the companions, Erida's going to be dead at the end of this.
Yeah, agreed.
I do think though, Leah, as sad as I would be if one of the main companions died, I think that if they didn't and it was just one of like the lesser companions, as you said, I think I might feel a little cheated. I'd be sad and cheated at the same time because of that, I think. But
that makes sense. I mean, you kind of do with a story like this expect that one of the main characters is going to sacrifice himself or something's going to happen and they're going to die.
Yeah.
Just kind of how it goes. It's just sad, but
I am curious to know how she's going to end this one because I know a lot of people had issues with the Red Queen ending because I think she even mentioned that when we not met her, but like heard her speaking and stuff like that. She said that people were kind of upset that she didn't put a like pretty little bow on the stories. And I'm okay with that because I feel like not every story you're going to have that,
I agree.
So I'm curious to know how this one's going to do it, if she's going to maybe fan service a little bit and maybe keep it more, I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say, or if she's going to leave it more open-ended like she did for the Red Queen ones.
Well, and with Red Queen too, she did end up then going back and writing another book.
I didn't know that was the thing.
Stories. Yeah. So she wrote all these other short stories that take place after the ending of it. And I think that was probably partially fan service there.
Yeah.
Because when I met her at YALLFest, she said the same thing where there were people who were just upset about the ending. She's like, I thought it was pretty concluded. And I said, I agree with you. I liked what you wrote, but I mean, you're never going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't like the way it ends, but I like her writing and what she does. So
same. Yeah. Cause I, like I said, I feel like it's more open-ended. So if maybe she does want to circle back, and maybe play around with these characters a little bit later in their life or something, she has that option to do that instead of like pretty bow, here you go. Everyone gets a happy ending.
Right. And the thing is, that's not how life is. Like life doesn't end up with happy endings all the time, even in fantasy, YA fantasy.
Right.
So.
All right. So wrapping up this episode, guys, let's talk about our individual scores for this book. Barbara, what was yours?
Yeah, I kind of feel bad now that I gave it an 8.5 and not a 9 like you guys did. But mine was an 8.5 and I want to defend that only because of a few things with Erida's chapters where I feel like it was just dragging just a little bit for me and I could have just cut out some of her and Taristan's creepy pining for one another. I think that would have been just fine. But otherwise, absolutely love this and I can't wait.
I give it a 9. I really liked it. I think I give the first book a 9 too. I like this one just as much as that. So I felt I needed to keep it consistent. I think with the way things are going, I could give the last one a 10 maybe. We'll see. But I love this book. It was great. I'm looking forward to the next one.
I gave it a 9 as well. I also very much enjoyed it. Like I said, the only thing that was a downfall for me was just the the sexy time between Taristan and Erida. But other than that,
Yes.
I really loved it. So it was a 9 for me.
For that. But our group score for this one, like we said before, was an 8.75 out of 10. Pretty high rating. I think one of the higher ones for our podcast, actually.
Yeah.
But let's close this out. Make sure you guys are all following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. If you can, give us a rating, and if they let you, leave us a review as well. It's really important. It helps our podcast get seen by more people. Also, don't forget to be following us on social media. Our username is @BadassLitPod on both Instagram and Facebook. Leah, do you want to plug your show and socials one more time?
Sure. So it is YA Book Chat, and you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I am most active on Instagram, so that's really the better spot to follow me. It's available on all of the major podcasting formats.
Okay, so if you guys have feedback about today's episodes, you can contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com, and I'm getting so much better at that. Yay me. Anyways, you can also send us a DM or leave a comment on Instagram or Facebook.
And with that, I want to thank Leah so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to get to record and read with you. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, I love picking other people's brains about books that I read. It's always good. And it's really nice to know that I wasn't the only one confused about that timeline because, man,
Yes.
I don't feel like Michael gets as confused as I do.
No.
Yeah, because I think you're more used to these epic fantasy novels and I'm not. And I'm like, what? No.
Now, I do want to point out, though, I want to thank Leah for something else because we may have never stumbled upon or read this series if it wasn't for you asking us to do the first one with you when it came out.
Aw.
So,
well, you're welcome. I always love sharing information on books with other people. So anytime.
we appreciate it. And with that, thank you guys so much for listening. I'm Michael.
This is Barbara.
And I'm Leah.
Bye.
Bye.